1800s, slavery was happening everywhere. By the 1840s, cotton was a major cash crop in the South, which was where I was living at the time. Cotton soon became popular all throughout America. We worked day and night picking the cotton and gathering it to our masters. Over hundreds of barrels were filled by the time we were finished picking it off the trees. A lot of the cotton got sent to the north because machines and inventions were being made at that time. That made cities grow more, and it also made factories grow too. I heard over in the north that they had to work like dogs, sewing the cotton in thousands of cloths almost each day just to barely get by. Thank goodness I lived in the South. In a way, the South and North were different because of the lifestyle each one had, but they were both very similar by being linked to cotton and by the way they were treating us as slaves. There were so many inventions coming out in the 1800s. I remember in 1846 when Elias Howe made a machine that could make more pieces of clothing than an average of 5 seamstresses. The machine was called the sewing machine. Soon, clothing makers started to buy over hundreds of Elias Howe's machine. Tailors had to find a new way to make a living since the machine took over their jobs. Another thing that was invented at the time was Morse code. In 1844, Samuel F.B. Morse found a way to communicate with others in the distance. He would use a telegraph that gives electrical signals along a long wire. Whatever Morse would type in would come out the same way, just as in dots, dashes, and spaces. His machine ended up working, and his invention became a huge success. Due to all the inventions and developments happening in the northern area, a lot of businesses grew largely. Factories started to use steam power instead of water power. This made machines run cheaper, and the machines would also have more power as well. Also, the use of steam power would let businesses to be built almost anywhere. Families no longer had to make clothing because of their new machines, and produce goods cost less because of transportation was cheap and fast. The fast transportation affected the northern side too. Most farmers lost their jobs because grains were cheaper and so were crops. Many farmers had to give up farming and find another job like factory working or store clerks. Factories started to spread over the South, which made life harder for most folks, including me. They treated us like animals when we were working in the factories. They made us work almost 24 hours each day. Sometimes we would even have days where we worked non-stop, with no break at all. It was so frustrating and tiring. In the 1840s and 1850s, when industry started to grow a lot, factories needed more workers. In most cases, factories would hire entire families to work for them. They even made some of us sign a contract saying that they would work for them for 1 year, and even if one family member breaks the contract, the whole entire family would get fired. The working conditions weren't so swell either. We never got full pay, and we worked for hours. Soon workers went on strike, so we got fair pay and hours. In some places, striking was illegal because it stopped manufacturing with factories and companies. In the 1800s, immigrants started to come over to the U.S. for jobs. Millions of immigrants started to do jobs most Americans didn't want to do, but for less pay and longer hours. Soon the Americans got angry and they said that they were stealing their jobs. In the 1800s, I was free from slavery. In fact, a lot of African Americans were free from slavery. But we didn't have equal rights. There was so much discrimination and racism. It was so hard getting jobs, just because of our skin color. I hated that. Although a lot of African Americans weren't very